This is the second of the 10-minute video series from Ultimate Access. We're looking at Thomas Fine Teas in preparation for the SEMA Operational Case Study exam in August 2018. My name is Sandy Hood and we're looking at variance analysis today. Now this features within the P1 syllabus within the cost accounting systems area, and it's got quite a lot in terms of content for variance analysis, but certainly the area that the examiner likes to test is in the subdivision. So we're looking at the subdivision of usage and efficiency into mix and yield variances, and also sales, the sales volume into sales mix and sales quantity. We're also interested in the planning and operational variances. This has been tested a lot in recent exams. In fact, I would be extremely surprised if we got to the end of the August exams and we found that there hadn't been a variance question at least once over the 5 variants. Now the variances have generally been answered badly, and it's likely that mix and yield and planning operational variances will continue to be examined at operational case study, and future candidates should prepare for this examination by ensuring that they understand and are able to explain these variances in context. Those are the words of the examiner for this exam. Recently, in the May exam, there were 3 variance questions out of the 5 variants. In February, every single variant had a variance question, and in November there were 4 variance questions. So this is a very, very regularly tested area of the syllabus. So I recommend preparing for sales quantity and mix, material yield and mix, labour yield and mix, and planning and operational variances. There's plenty of clues in the pre-scene. The final tea products must have a consistent taste. The tea brought in can vary. The mix of different tea leaves used is constantly changing to maintain a consistent finished product. I think it takes a little bit of understanding to get your head around this idea that within the tea bag business, it's different from so many other businesses. In so many other businesses, we have consistent inputs. Here we need a consistent output, and the inputs do vary. And that's the role of the blender. A blend recipe needs to be created for every production run of a particular blend. So every production run has its own blend, because the leaves are going to be different from one run to the other. This comes straight from the pre-scene material. So looking at the other examples, we can see that we're given an interesting opportunity for a production mix, I suppose. Certainly in terms of inputs, that we've got tea leaves and paper. I don't think that we'd get a mix and yield variance from differences in having extra paper and not enough tea leaves, but we might have something possibly in a different mix of different leaves of different tea leaves. The other one could be in the labour mix. Here we would expect a large batch of black tea to require 14 hours of labour for mixing and 38 for the production of bags. So you can see an opportunity for a labour mix variance there. Similarly, there could be overhead variance questions as well. Pricing, this comes straight from the pre-scene. Our strong reputation built up over our 200-year history of providing high quality teas and infusions allows us to charge higher than average retail prices for our blends compared with similar blends on the market. Our blends are renowned in the industry for their depth of flavour and for their smoothness. Our pricing structure to the supermarkets and wholesalers allows them to make a small margin. At times, we have special pricing arrangements with supermarkets so that they can offer half price and buy one get one free promotional deals on our products. We could definitely have a sales variance question coming straight from that sentence. In fact, not even a whole sentence. I think that that's telling me to be on my guard and ready for a sales variance question. So, are you ready? This time we're going to look at managing the time within a whole section. I'm not promising it, but I'm pretty confident that we will have 5 variants of this exam, all of them with 4 45-minute sections. Hello, Finance Officer, says Fred Thomas. I have been given the attached sales variance analysis sheet. What does it tell us about our customers' buying behaviour and any external conditions during June? Do you think it might be beneficial to split the variances into their planning and operational elements? 2 clear questions. Let's look at the additional data. Dealand had much hotter weather than normal in June, and sales by soft drink and beer manufacturers were much higher than expected, and sales of tea and coffee suffered. Ben Jones agreed a special pricing arrangement with Forest supermarkets so that they could offer everyday tea on a buy one get one free promotional deal. Here's a big form. This is how it's presented in previous exams. You get a lot of numbers, but in a way this kind of variance analysis rather than an operating statement gives you scope to be able to pick up bits of information from within it. Here in the top section you've got the sales price variances with a total of $1,083,000 adverse variance from the sales price. In the middle section you've got the sales mix, and you've got a 8,570 adverse variance for sales mix. So by comparison with the 1 million for the sales price variance, the sales mix variance is quite small. And down the bottom, which isn't visible on my screen, we had something in the order of 117,000 for the total favourable variance for the sales quantity. So information and broken down across the retail sizes. You see in this one, those catering packs have been ignored. We're only looking at the everyday hundreds and 200s, stronger hundreds and 200s, classic hundreds and premium 100s. Now, my advice is that you stop the recording and go back and print that screen, because it gives you an opportunity to think about and see how you would plan your answer if you got something similar to this in the exam. Then you can restart and see, the structure and how I recommend that you actually do the planning once you've identified the issues that you've spotted. We've got 45 minutes in a typical section. It's worth about 25% of the marks. So I would think in this question that we've got a 13% on what the sales variances are telling us, and about 12% on a judgment about the splitting of the variances into planning and operational elements. So you must answer the question, but in order to do that, you need to understand what the numbers are telling you. Identify the question, plan your answers, check that your plan addresses the task requirements, then quickly write up a series of short paragraphs. Here, identifying the question, we've got what do the variances tell us on the sales variance analysis sheet about the customer's buying behaviour and any external conditions in June. What do you think we should do in the future about splitting the variances? 2 distinct questions. Planning. We've got about 9 minutes to plan. Now that includes the reading time and just getting to grips with the information that we've been presented with. That leaves us with about 18 minutes each for the 2 tasks. Total 45 minutes. I recommend writing straight into the word processing document that you'll be given in the exam. And here, straight in, sales variances, sales price, sales mix, sales quantity, planning and operational. That comes straight from the original information that we were given in the question. Now we start to pan them out and we start adding more detail. We need about 6, I think we probably need 8 paragraphs from each task in order to be able to pass. And so that here, looking at it, we've got the sales variances and in terms of customer buying behaviour and so on. We've got sales price, Discounting for the forest supermarkets, all the other prices are as budgeted. We've spotted that. Sales mix, well, we spotted it was quite small, but it's certainly adverse. All the adverse except the discounted packs within the mix. And then the sales quantity, well, we've sold 80,000 more boxes of tea than we had budgeted for. And we're taking into consideration decided that the hot weather ought to have reduced the sales, but our sales have actually gone above budget. Then we need to look at the planning and operational aspects. Well, it provides meaningful control. We're comparing things that people can control with how they've actually controlled them. And then we've got the planning accuracy. So the planning department needs to be scrutinised. The forest supermarket deal hadn't been built into our original budget, so how would planning variances build that in? Retrospective, when changes are known. We could incorporate the weather. We don't necessarily always know what the weather's going to be. Certainly in the UK we don't. I suspect that certainly in some countries the weather's a lot more predictable. And then this discipline that it forces the planners to have when they're drawing up their forecasts. A sense of responsibility for performance and highlight the need for training. So we go back and we check to make sure that our plan is actually addressing the same questions that we've been asked. And we can see that what do the variance on the sales analysis sheet show us about the customer's buying behaviour and external conditions, and the information that we need that will enable us to make a judgment about whether it's worthwhile to split the variances. We've got 17 headings. That's enough to get us started, and we've given ourselves about 18 minutes of task. Straight in, about 2 minutes for each of these paragraphs. The price variances were adverse for both the sizes and boxes of everyday tea, and we've got in there one sentence telling us about the issue, another sentence making it sure that we are talking in the context of the Thomas's fine teas. Then move on to the next topic. The sales price discounting led to a variance of over $1 million. Then discounting at forest supermarkets. Well, the analysis provides average prices. It doesn't tell us the specifics of each of the customers. So the report average prices indicate that the other customers were probably charged full price. All other prices are as budgeted. No other price variances indicated at all. Other packs were sold at budgeted prices. The sales mix, this small adverse variance, appears to have been caused by the budgeted mix being distorted by the half-price deal. The discounted packs made up a much greater share of sales than budgeted. Then they're all adverse except the discounted pack. Again, here we've been able to pick out 2 paragraphs. Remember, each heading you can be looking for 2 paragraphs. Then you can be picking up 2 marks per heading. More, the third paragraph here, there may have been changes to buyer behaviour within the Thomas Fine Tea range. As the everyday tea was much cheaper than normal at Forest, this may have led to some classic and some premium tea regulars switching in response to the price. Remember, the question was to do with customers' buying behaviour. Sales quantity, total of 80,000 more sales, and then again a little bit to do with the weather, a little bit to do with the increased size from the promotion. Hot weather not as expected. Well, no paragraph there because we've already really addressed that. Avoid repetition. You don't earn marks for repetition. Then mentioning the planning and operational, but no further. And then meaningful control. We can separate the variances that were controllable by sales and marketing from those that really are the responsibility of the planning team. Planning accuracy. If we know something will happen in a particular month which will affect the sales of tea bags, then they need to be taking it into consideration so that the plan is as useful as it possibly can be. And then of course this enables us to hold the planners to account, and it means also that we've got these operational variances that don't include planning errors, and then the sales team will only be responsible for the operational variances. And these are things that they can control. Discipline, yes, the planning needs to be a more disciplined approach, and this not only includes the targets for sales staff, but also the continuity of supply to customers. highlights training needs. Sure, we may well be able to use these planning variances to identify that our planners need to train harder, or that our sales team, now that they're only being faced with operational variances, see where they perhaps need some more guidance and assistance. Recommendation. I recommend that future variances are split between planning and operational variances. This will add to clarity of responsibility within the two teams and improve overall control. A clear recommendation, because that's what was asked for. I recommend that you should revise variances. I've made it clear, and I've said, without sort of making any sort of wild promises of doing strange things, that I am absolutely convinced that there's going to be at least one variance question in your exams. So over those 5 variants, there's definitely going to be at least one, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was 4 or even 5. So try to imagine possible scenarios that could have variances as far as Thomas Fine T's are concerned, and then apply your knowledge. Practice planning and then writing up answers. I hope to see you again for our next introductory recording. Thank you very much for listening to this.